Are we done? Okay, hello. Welcome everybody to this countdown tonight to the European election tomorrow. We are sitting here today with many people also from Germany and Yanis Varoufakis from Greece to, reflect a bit on campaigning in the last few weeks, but also to talk about the European election and see what we will, what result we might expect tomorrow. Sorry. And of course, we have also a lot of things going on locally right now and in Berlin. And currently, our group in Berlin is on the ground on a demonstration. And with them, there is Davide from our coordinating collective. And we want to just quickly go over to Berlin and see what the guys are up to there on the ground.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. Hi Yanis, hi Julijana, hi everybody else. I'm here in Berlin with our DM and MERA activists. We're thousands of people here in Berlin on the streets. There are people that have been arrested, children, elderly people, peaceful protesters. The German police is, just going nuts and arresting people right, left, and center. We're here, like I said, with hundreds of people, of so many of our members, to call out our European government's complicity in genocide, to call out what Israel is doing in Gaza, but also what's happening in the West Bank. Let's not forget about the West Bank and the apartheid conditions under which so many people are living in Gaza, in the West Bank. Sorry, it's very loud here. It's hard to speak. We're also running in the elections. This is why we're running the elections, because we need voices for peace, dignity, and freedom, voices that will reverberate inside the European institutions, and that will bring our message of peace to every European citizen, to every citizen who happens to live in the European Union. And that's why tomorrow, if you haven't made your mind up yet, vote for MERA in Greece, vote for MERA in Italy, vote for MERA in Germany. I'm going to pass the word now to Karen Dorigo, our leading candidate here in Germany, for a few words from her as well.
Hi, everybody. Tomorrow is the vote for peace. Tomorrow is the vote for solidarity. Tomorrow is the vote for freedom. Vote MERA25.
Well done, everyone. Come on, let's take it on. Let's take over the Zoom with questions from the public.
Yes, thank you guys in Berlin. It's great to see so many people on the street together with us from MERA25. As Yanis said, let's start with questions. And I think one question that is very important for people right now, one day before the election, is to know how it has been going in Greece for you, Yanis, for MERA25, and also, to share how it's going in Germany. But we here in Germany, I think we are really, really curious to know what the past weeks have been and how campaigning has been going for you and how the resonance of the people on the ground were towards MERA25 in Greece.
Well, I can tell you that our activists are very happy with the way the campaign has been going. Remember that last year, around this time, we had a crushing defeat. We lost our 9 seats in parliament. We did half as well in terms of votes as we were expecting. So we came out of a crushing defeat last summer. And I would not have been surprised if MERA25 simply evaporated. We had defections because, it is only in defeat that you find out exactly who the true believers are. And a lot of people who were with us, they were simply hangers-on and they abandoned ship. But, and this is the great but, the people who came were more than the people who left. And not only quantitatively, but also qualitatively. The quality of the new activists that joined us in defeat and the quantity, the number, was heartwarming. And, when people join you, when you have just lost all your budget, all your seats in parliament, all your privileges of being a parliamentary party, you know that those people truly mean it. that they're in this for the struggle, for the principles, not for the benefits, the office, the salaries, the whatever. That doesn't mean it wasn't hard, because the establishment, which was already marginalizing us, during the 4 years we were in parliament, that were refusing to acknowledge that we were a parliamentary party, to have us on television. They had their fantastic opportunity to say, they're out of parliament. Now we can ignore them, suppress their views completely with impunity and legally, with legitimacy. So between last June 2023, and 2-3 weeks ago, 60% of the population didn't know that we existed as a party, had not seen anything from us. So we started about 4 weeks ago, three weeks ago, in the opinion polls, we were around 1%, 1.5%. And remember the cutoff here, like in Germany, you have in the parliamentary elections a 5% cutoff, but not in the European elections. Here we have a 3% cutoff, both in the European elections and in the parliamentary elections, in the national elections. Now, all the opinion pollsters who were reporting our percentage at around 1.5%, with a great deal of joy and pleasure, I have to say, because those companies belong to the enemy, let's put it bluntly. Now they had to push us up to 3%. So now they have us on the cutting edge, on the knife's edge, at the 3% knife's edge. So that has given a lot of courage to our people. And we see this on the street. On the street, there is a better response than last year. However, having said that, nothing is given. Nothing is for granted. We have a great disadvantage, and that is that our support is the youth. And the youth don't vote. They, especially if tomorrow is a scorcher of a day, as it is predicted by the meteorological office, that we will have a 35 Celsius day. It's very, many youngsters will simply go to the beach. And that is what is of the essence. If there was compulsory voting, would have been home and dry. But unfortunately, there isn't. And apathy, electoral apathy, which is created by years and years of the political system betraying the young, betraying the voters. Remember, in 2015, we had 62% of the vote, 62% of the vote in favor of the no to the Troika, and that was overturned the same night. So people say, well, it doesn't matter what we vote for. So let's go to the beach instead. And that is a major, major, major weakness for us, because the establishment doesn't need votes. They've got the media, they've got the police, they have the banks, they have the oligarchs. They really don't need votes. We need votes. So we are on this, on the edge of our seats. The next, 35 hours are going to be a killer. I very much don't look forward to what happened in 2019 in the European Parliament election, when MERA was on the knife's edge throughout the night. We were at 3.000001. And we needed 3, and then eventually we fell to 2.99999, and we didn't get a seat. That was stolen, I have to tell you. There was 47 votes. Right? They cancelled, they annulled 3,500 votes of ours, and we lost by 47 votes. I don't want to relive this tomorrow. This is a personal note. But, at least our activists are hopeful. And that was a major success.
Thank you, Yanis. Yeah, we are all holding our breath for tomorrow, and I think nobody wants to see those 2.9%. It's better to have 1% than, to be like, okay, we didn't make it, but 2.9 is really hurtful. So I go over to Johannes, and Johannes can share a bit how it was for Germany, how it was for us in the past weeks. Please go, Johannes.
Thank you. And thank you for the report already from underground in Berlin and then in Athens. I am in Düsseldorf. I'm actually also living in Berlin, but I traveled here because we actually in Germany have a special position. We are never been a parliamentary party here, and no one really recognizes us much until October happened, and the complete party system in Germany started to basically support the so-called self-defense of Israel and what they were doing in Gaza, and we didn't, and that put us. And this is not, that wasn't a strategic choice. This is a choice that we took with the all-member vote we had in DiEM25 already for a couple of years, our principled positions, also in Israel-Palestine. And that helped us to now to be in a very different position. And I'm here in Düsseldorf because I spoke at the demonstration here at the against the genocide today, together with the Jewish Voice for Peace and the Palestinian organizations that organize it. And it was another great experience to be with people on the street, to also, of course, share with everyone our other positions. We are not just about supporting Palestinians. We are about equal rights for everyone. I made that very clear. And we are about to, or our plan is to also change something about the economic system here and the poverty and all the problems that we have in Germany. And it has been a great couple of months, couple of weeks, especially, of course, now. We are recognized now. We don't know, of course, what will happen tomorrow, but it's going to be either way. We have made great connections. We have gained a lot of members, and we will, whatever happens tomorrow, of course, you saw Karin Derigo speaking at the demonstration in Berlin very shortly. We want to send her to the European Parliament for MERA25 Germany to be a voice for peace there. And but whatever happens tomorrow, we will be in a different position after this, and we will be able to build our party much stronger with all the connections we got and with all the new people that we have on board now. And I'm looking very much forward to that. And of course, tomorrow is probably going to be a nail biter, and looking a bit forward to that also because it has been a great campaign. So that's what we earned to look at the results tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. Before we get to questions, we also have people from local groups here, people who have been working tirelessly in the past few weeks. Johannes is a candidate, but also the next speaker is a candidate on the list. Please, you have the floor. It's Mini from Dresden.
Yes. So hi, I'm Greek and I live in Dresden since 12 years now. I would very briefly like to say what drove me to and kept me to MERA. So the last years in Greece are catastrophic from many points of view, from Pylos, so the shipwreck that happened last summer, and destruction of forests like Daria and Evia, and all this was too much to bear, and I felt like having to do something. So especially after the majority of the voters, saying bravo to Nea Demokratia 2 weeks after Pylos. So this was too much to take, and I decided on the 6th of October to join this event in Berlin on the 7th, I think. And while we were watching Yanis and Ece the Melkuran, the Hamas attack happened. So I was keen to see the reaction of MERA to that, and I was really, all my expectations were fulfilled, and that's what kept me. So the position again for Palestine, and actually that the focus, also the TV spot, was on Palestine, I found amazing. And like me, many people think like me. And I started alone from Dresden. I was the only MERA member in Dresden, and now there are many people in the group, like more than 10, and people are still contacting me. So I was on a pro-Palestine demo today, and people knew MERA. When I handed out the flyers, Stop the Genocide, most of them told me, we already voted for MERA. So, and at the beginning and in December, when I went to the first demonstrations, nobody knew MERA. I spoke for the signatures. I spoke like, because literally I was collecting alone signatures. I spoke like with more than 300 people, and very few knew MERA. And now they told me I already voted for MERA. So really, it was something very nice. I also found very nice the idea of like Judith being in Athens now and supporting there the campaign. I think it will help a lot to show this transnationality of MERA. And just one comment, I'm sure you have talked a lot about it. People know more DM than MERA. So they always asked me, oh, DM changed its name. To me, no, I had to explain every time and what MERA means. So I don't know, I just wanted to transfer this to you from the perspective of the people. Yeah, and otherwise a big thank you to all of you. And you know, it's this whole period was eye-opening to me in terms of you know, where my friends stand, where my family stands, where I am standing. So what is one capable to do? So yeah, it was really nice, all that, and I hope it will continue. You know, tomorrow is the elections, but then we have and maybe an even harder way to go, depending on the results, of course. So yeah, thanks a lot. That's from my side.
Thank you, Zmini. And yes, indeed, people ask about DM, but I think it's a good conversation opener. It makes it more interesting to get, you know, to start with it. I go to Basel. I hope I read the name right. In Bonn, please.
Hi, again, my name is Basil, and then I just want to express my experience, and that's also like the same experience what Ismini said, that for me was, yeah, and how we call it, a surprise that when I go to the demonstration here in Bonn and also in Cologne, and start, you know, handing out these flyers or information about MERA, and the people said, oh, I already voted for it. So last week I went to a demonstration in Bonn, and I was shouting, if someone doesn't vote for MERA, here's the flyers. And so a lot of resonance is coming back that they know MERA and they vote for it. And the same happened when I spoke last Sunday in a demonstration organized by the Palestinian community in Köln and Bonn, that the people came to me after that and salute me, and they want to take picture because I had the poster, Free Palestine poster of MERA. So I am optimistic, but I want to be realistic that we are moving ourselves in a small, how you call it, small community, which is the Palestinian community. But to tell you the truth, I'm not sure how the others are thinking about MERA, and if it's known enough for that. And I have a question also for Johannes and also for Yanis. Are we having a strategy for the day after, for Monday, like because we now MERA is very known now in the Palestinian community. So I think we need to use this knowledge, or to use this to be known, to develop through the years a strategic how we will gather these people to support MERA. And yeah, I feel myself very sorry that I came late to the party. I wish I had the chance to know MERA before. Yeah, so that it will be very active, and yeah, but never too late. Thank you.
Exactly. Never too late. We're glad that you're in the party now, and we're looking forward to everything that's coming. I think first, before we go to Cologne, I'll give Yanis the chance to answer the question of Basel, and Johannes, maybe if you want also to say something.
Of course, there is a plan. The plan is to continue everything that we are doing now. The ballot box is simply a short stop along a long ride towards significance. So we can have a moment's rest tomorrow night, but then Monday we continue what we were doing before. Carpe diem.
And maybe I can jump in. By the way, all of you listening, Basel did a great speech yesterday when I was in Cologne at our street event, campaign event there, from his perspective as a Palestinian in Germany. And of course, yeah, Basel and everyone listening, we are going to really build our party in Germany. We are to be reckoned with, I think, in the future also on the regional level, on the local level. And we have enough people to do this now that joined us in the last months. You're one of them. So welcome on board. And then we'll get it going, as Yanis said, right, the day after the election.
Thank you, Johannes. Before I go over to you, Leslie in Cologne, maybe I throw in one question that is already in the chat, and maybe you can also pick up on it, which is, how do we explain the importance of peace, solidarity, and freedom to young people? So please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie from Cologne. So yesterday we had the last MERA campaign event with Johannes in Cologne, together with people from Bonn. So Basel was there as well. And it was quite amazing because they were we were all very amazed by the fact that how we're able to put up the event, with this short amount of time, and then we managed to talk about, like, have one speaker to address each of the MERA campaign agenda. So we had someone talking about the green transition, and we had Basel, who spoke based on his personal experience on Palestine, and I spoke about migration, and Johannes, gave the introduction and the conclusion, and Vincent traveled from Frankfurt to give us, to give a speech about universal living income. And we also had the support from Amir from the Netherlands, and it was great. I think, to my surprise, to be honest, I was approached because we also set up an info stand. And I was approached by a lot of young people who told me that we just turned 16 this year and we can vote for the first time. And can you tell us something about, like, you guys? Because we don't want to listen to those big parties saying. So suddenly I was put on spot. So I was like, okay. And then so I was explaining to the young kids, and I have to say, because being in Germany, and sometimes I also have the hesitation of approaching them with very, in a way, radical language, and be like, okay, we need to do something about the genocide. So, but then when I say the word Palestine, and so many young kids already say to me, yes, because there's a genocide going on there. And I was like, okay, fine, then we can talk about it now. So I think we are really gaining a momentum, especially among younger kids. Of course, that's based on my very limited experience as well. But just my personal feeling that people are hearing us, and there's a diverse of people who approached us, at our info stand in different places, and to ask questions. And most of the time they were attracted to our info stand by our stance on Palestine, but they're also curious about other topics that we want to talk about. And I thought that was a very good thing for us as well. So I don't know whether that answered your question completely, Julijana, but our event yesterday, I would say, especially now Cologne and Bonn is one group now, so we're very happy. We have more people, and we have already kind of ideas about what we would talk about, after the election as groups, and so everything is going towards a very motivating direction, I would say.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I think you answered the question, and I also feel that young people in Germany are way more enlightened than the older ones. Also, when it comes to Palestine, and I guess there is the advantage of schools also speaking about the elections. From what I heard so far, I think that question is well answered. So I will go to the next question, which is, what do you think of an alliance with revolutionary Marxist parties, such as the CGP in Germany? Isn't there a need for a broad left-wing movement that wants to overcome capitalism? Maybe, Yanis, we want to pick it up?
Well, I don't know the particulars of this particular party that is mentioned. You are on the ground in Germany, you know best. There is no doubt that we need to have a broad alliance of people who resist the toxic narrative that Europeans have a choice, or Germans have a choice between the radical center, which is creating the discontent, which is feeding the ultra-right, and the ultra-right, which is providing the radical center with an excuse for ruling. There is no doubt that our long-term view must be socialism. No doubt about that, because the root cause of the exploitation of humans and of nature are the exploitative social relations of production, as we Marxists used to say for yonks now. But let's face it, we are heavily defeated now for decades as the left, as a Marxist left, as a progressive left, as the radical left. So we need to build slowly. And we need to build by offering people, firstly, an analysis of what's going on now, and secondly, an opportunity through our collectivity to resist and to protect them from the daily exploitation that they face. The fear of losing their jobs, the fear of not being able to put food on the table, the fear of losing their hospital, their local school, the fear of war, the fear of living in societies that condone genocide. If you go to them and say, look, let's have a revolution that overthrows capitalism tomorrow, I don't think this is not credible yet. That this should be the task, yes, no doubt. But, we are struggling to elect one Euro MP. Okay? That's an important step. But we have a long way to go before we can have a programmatic narrative regarding the replacement of the exploitative system we live in. For the time being, we offer protection to them.
Yes, please, Johannes.
Yes, just adding on that point, and then actually also have to leave and catch my train to Berlin. But it was great being with you all. And please ask more questions in the chat so we can, shoot the answers back at you. And I wanted to say that I was also not sure which party was mentioned now, but generally wanted to make the point we've been actually attacked a bit the last days from other leftist organizations, sadly. But of course, always sometimes, the people that are ideologically close to you are even more concerned if you're getting more recognition than they do. We've been called, for example, which is ridiculous, like capitalist Trojan horse, which we are not, obviously. But anyway, even to those people that call us this, like I said already, we will talk. We are always open to talk, especially to organizations that are ideologically close to us, that are left, that are progressive, that are Marxist. And we will see what comes out of that. Sometimes, it can be an alliance. Sometimes it cannot just be an event or a contact or something you organize together, a demonstration like we've been doing a lot in the last weeks. And yeah, we'll be open to that because we want to build, as Yanis said, step by step. And it's going to be important to be in touch with parties, unions, movements, and we're going to do that. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, because I wanted to mention that particular phrase that we're a capitalist Trojan horse, which could not be further from the truth. Next question from the chat, and I forgot to mention the names. The previous question was from Karl Marx, just to add. Another question from Sumins. Hello, everyone. I would like to know how you stand is regarding the Ukraine conflict. Are you supporting more weapons deliveries, or do you think there should be more diplomatic talks?
I'm happy to take that. We have a position that came out very soon after Putin's troops invaded Ukraine. And I'm very proud for the position that DiEM25 put forward. Because right from the beginning, we said this war must end immediately, because if we let it continue, we are going to end up with a perpetual war, trench warfare, in the guise of a latter day First World War, where the trench wasn't moving much. The front line was shifting by a few kilometers every few months at the cost of hundreds of thousands of deaths. The definition of paranoia, the definition of madness. So to answer your question, when you say more diplomatic moves, there are no diplomatic moves, because unfortunately, Putin, Zelensky, and Biden have a common interest. All three of them. They may not like each other, but they have one common interest: to perpetuate this war forever. If this war ends, Putin is going to face serious problems stabilizing his regime. If this war ends, Zelensky will be overthrown within a week. If this war ends, the United States will cease to control Europe the way they are controlling Europe at the moment through NATO. They will cease to be able to make super profits by selling liquefied natural gas from Mexico, from New Mexico and from Texas to Germany. They will not be able to sell the quantities of weapons that they're selling now. So we came up with a proposal, a very decent proposal, that in exchange for a pledge from NATO that Ukraine will remain neutral, non-aligned, there should be international guarantees to Ukraine of its sovereignty. Russian troops should withdraw to where they were before they invaded in February 2022. And the Donbas area, which is genuinely contested between Ukrainian speakers and Russian speakers, should be jointly administered under international supervision in exactly the same way that we solved the Northern Ireland conflict through the Good Friday Agreement. Just copy the Good Friday Agreement for the Donbas area. So we have a very clear view. More weapons are not going to resolve absolutely anything. They will just kill more people. And Ukraine will become even less viable than it is today. Don't forget that most of the land in Ukraine has already been purchased by American hedge funds. American multinationals are taking over the place. The European Union will be forced by Washington to pay for hedge funds and American corporations to do whatever they want in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the worst regressive forces, both in Russia and in Ukraine, are controlling their people. Our comrades are in prison in Ukraine. Our comrades are in prison in Russia. So, peace now.
Thank you, Yanis. Another question here from Kurasan Meinhof is, how is working with Claire Daly, who is an Assad supporter, denied the Chinese crimes against the Uyghurs, supported the Iranian regime, while we all know how criminal it is, not betraying us?
Well, I'll take this. It's incumbent upon me. Your question is, on the one hand, legitimate, but on the other hand, phrased in a manner which makes it clear that you are either misinformed or you are trying to misinform us. It contains slanders which you can't prove because they're not true. You say, and because I've got your question here too, it's on the YouTube chat, everybody can read it. How is working with Claire Daly, who is an ardent Assad supporter? Prove it. Come up with one statement by Claire Daly supporting the Assad regime. You can't, because she doesn't. So your question is embedded, or a big slander is already inside your question. Maybe you've read it somewhere, because I've read it too. So I'm not saying that you are doing this on purpose, but Check your sources. Claire Daly has never supported the Assad regime. The situation in Syria is incredibly complex. And let me share with you my own experiences of how difficult it is to maintain a progressive position in that part of the world. Let me remind you that decades ago, it seems like yesterday to be, but it was decades ago, there was Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was a fascist bastard. He was a killer. He was, he had no compunction whatsoever. He killed the Kurds using American chemical weapons. He invaded Iran at the behest of the United States with money from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. He was a truly sorry piece of humanity. Okay? I was demonstrating against Saddam Hussein in the early 1980s in London. And at the time, we were beaten up by the police because Saddam Hussein was on the side of the West. Let me remind you. Okay? Now, when George W. Bush, in response to 9/11, callously announced that he was going to invade Iraq under false pretenses, weapons of mass destruction that Saddam Hussein didn't have, and somehow linking the Iraq regime with Al-Qaeda. There was no connection whatsoever. Saddam Hussein was a bastard, but he was not on good terms with Al-Qaeda. He had no connection with them. So the West invaded Iraq. We were the same people who were demonstrating against Saddam Hussein in the 1980s. We were demonstrating against the United States for invading Iraq. And at that point, there were people, just like now, there are people calling Claire Daly an Assad supporter who called people like me a Saddam Hussein supporter because I was against the invasion of Iraq. I'm just against regime change affected by the United States, which in the end, even if it is targeting a regime that is vile and horrible, it ends with millions of deaths and with circumstances that are disgusting, especially for the women of the place. So Claire Daly, who takes the same position as me, visited Syria and spoke to every single constituency there. She spoke to the democratic opposition, who are the worst, the biggest enemies of the Assad regime. She spoke to the Kurds. She spoke to representatives of the government in order, as a fact-finding mission, because our great worry, just like in 2003, is that the American NATO-propelled attempt at regime change in Syria is going to kill off the people that you seem to care about. In the same way that the invasion of Iraq killed off all the people that Saddam Hussein was persecuting. So DM25, MERA25, and Claire Daly were utterly against any kind of despot, including Assad, but at the same time, we are not in favor of an American-led regime change that will result in millions of deaths. And if you can't understand that, then you don't have the best interests of the Syrian people in mind. Now, you mentioned here that she denied Chinese crimes against the Uyghur. Chinese crimes against the Uyghur. None of us deny that which there is ample evidence that there is persecution of the Uyghurs. But you know what? At the very same time, I am not going to fall for the propaganda war of a West which suddenly is in love with the Uyghurs, the Muslim Uyghurs, right? Just because it suits them in pursuing a new Cold War and a new hot war, maybe, with China. Now, I personally am on record supporting the students of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, of the Polytechnic of Hong Kong, to be more precise, against the Chinese government. I'm on record supporting them fully. I will go against the Chinese government whenever anybody is persecuted, including the Uyghurs. But I didn't hear anybody in the West complaining about the way that the Indian fascist Modi, the Prime Minister of India, is persecuting the Muslims of Kashmir. Huh? Will you do that? I wonder. Or will you fall completely prey to a whataboutism? Uh, you say that Claire Daly supports the Iranian regime. Can you please check your sources again? Both Claire Daly and I have been in support of the campaign Woman, Life, Freedom, which is an anti-Iranian regime campaign. But again, we're not in support of the American and NATO attempts at regime change in Iran and at canceling, annulling the positive impact of Iran in destroying ISIS, saving the people of the Middle East from ISIS, and in supporting the Palestinians. I can be simultaneously very highly critical of the gender apartheid in Iran, of the theocratic dictatorial government of Iran, and at the same time not support the American regime, which is trying to change the regime in Iran in order to end all opposition to Israel's genocide, all opposition to ISIS and those killers. So check your sources and ask yourself the question, are you a troll or are you just misinformed?
Thank you, Yanis. I think it's actually good that we had this question because it kept coming up a few times, and I think it's good to address it in the way you did. There is another question, which is, I think, very important if people aren't clear on that position, is what could a long-term plan for Palestine-Israel conflict be? A two-state solution, question mark. For those who don't know our position, maybe, I don't know. Yanis?
Well, read our position because it's a very nuanced one. These are not easy things. What matters at the moment is that we avoid having an academic discussion on what the future of Palestine, Israel looks like. Because as we speak, people are dying. Children are starving. What is essential is that we boycott, sanction, and divest from Israel so as to push them to let those people live, to stop killing them, and allow aid to flow into Gaza, to stop the continuing genocide, the ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. Only yesterday, settlers uprooted 220 olive trees from a particular village. They demolished houses. They killed people, Palestinians, because that is proof that Hamas is irrelevant. There was no Hamas in the West Bank, in that part of the West Bank at least. All this preoccupation with Hamas is all about continuing the nasty work of ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and distracting our vision and our senses from the mass killings in Gaza and what's happening there. Now, my view personally, this you don't need to share it. What matters now is that we end apartheid, we end the genocide, we feed the people, and we stop killing them, right? And then we can have a discussion about how to proceed from there. But so that you don't think that I am evading, if you read, just type into Google DM25 position on Israel-Palestine. You'll read the analysis because I don't have time now. It would take an hour to discuss this. But very, very briefly, let me say that simply at recognizing the state of Palestine, while it is necessary, it is not sufficient. Because what kind of state are we talking about? Suppose that there is a state, some kind of state in the West Bank and Gaza. Firstly, they're not connected. What are you going to do? Build another motorway like the one that used to connect West Berlin to West Germany? Another wall, motorized wall that segregates part of Israel from another part of Israel, while the Palestinians are also segregated from each other. What happens to the 20% of Israel proper who are Palestinians? Do they still live under Israel proper as second-rate citizens, as second-class citizens? What happens with the Jews that stay in the West Bank? Because some of them will stay. There are 800,000 of them. You're not going to uproot all of them, even though they are there illegally. What happens to them? Do they live in the state of Palestine as second-rate citizens? This is why we believe that the first step should be the recognition of the state of Palestine. The second must be the complete demilitarization and a kind of confederation where there are equal rights, equal political rights for everybody on both sides, the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, which means essentially a single secular, non-religious, secular confederal state with two constituent states, one Israeli and one Palestinian. That's the DiEM25 view, but it's a long discussion. It took us months to come to that, so I can't just like this put it to you succinctly and in a comprehensive manner.
Thank you. Here's an interesting question regarding UBI. So Ruth asks, I have more basic questions about UBI. If we get, say, €1,000 UBI, what keeps my landlord from just raising my rent €1,000?
What? Well, nothing. Nothing. That's why we need. It's not enough. Nobody says the UBI is going to solve all the problems of capitalism, techno-feudalism, as I call it, the rentier economy and so on. This is why we need rent controls. We are not going to do away with rent controls. This is why we need social housing. We need to build social housing like they have in Vienna. Vienna is a fantastic example of how to handle housing. But basic income is an important first step. Because it liberates people from the insidious operations of the welfare state's means testing, which is very demeaning for people. Who has the right, who qualifies, who is a deserving poor and who is not deserving poor. It also gives women, minorities, carers a platform, some solid ground on which to stand to reach for something higher. It's one weapon against the exploitation of people, against the lack of dignity, against gender inequality, against minorities. It is also very important philosophically, ideologically, spiritually. Why? Because you see, we live in a world where there is a pervasive misunderstanding, a misunderstanding which is pushed for, sort of turbocharged by the rich. So the misunderstanding is that supposedly wealth is produced individually. Each one of us produces wealth, and then the state comes and collectivizes it through the state, through the tax system. Right? That is really not what is going on. Wealth is being produced collectively. We produce collectively wealth, like a beehive produces honey. And then the powerful privatize it. This is what happens. So if I'm right that we produce wealth collectively and then the rich privatize it, then UBI makes it tangible. It gives people this new perspective from which to look at collective wealth as something that we have all contributed to, even if we haven't been paid for our labor, for our contribution to society, for the inspiration that we've given to one another, or the care that we've given to one another. And suddenly, basic income becomes a right that we have to part of the collectively produced wealth.
Thank you, Yanis. I'm just going through the chat. If you have some questions, ask them now because we're running out of time. We have 10 minutes left. Okay, here's a question which says, would the US agree to remove its 40,000 soldiers from its 12 bases in Germany? Well, I don't think the US will agree in that sense. I think that person asked about our position on NATO, I guess. Maybe you can just explain a bit what our position on NATO is.
Who's going to answer that? Can you repeat the question because I missed it for a minute?
So the question basically is if the US would agree to remove its 40,000 soldiers from its 12 bases in Germany.
Well, Trump would like to remove them. He removed a lot of them when he was president. In the end, somebody has to ask them to do it. And I don't believe that the German government, probably, they will want more of them because they live under the illusion that they're facing a threat from Russia. I don't believe that Germany is facing a threat from Russia. I think that what's happening is that the narrative that comes from our capitals and from our political cadres, our political class, our NATO alliance, is essentially peddling insecurity so as to make us feel that we need the Americans, that we need nuclear weapons, that we need a dome made of American missiles to protect us. So this is an own goal, because by cultivating all this warmongering, essentially we give Putin an incentive to play along. And then the two sides, Putin and NATO, are playing off on one another against each other, right? And that way Putin becomes even more dominant amongst his own population, whom he suppresses viciously, and our own political class terrifies our own people into fearing that we're about to be invaded by Russians, and therefore accepting that billions, instead of being spent on health and education and the environment and so on, should be spent on American weaponry. So I don't care about the 40,000 American soldiers. I hope that they go back home. It is pathetic that they should be holidaying in Germany. They're not doing anything useful anyway. But you see, it's not even that they're there against the wishes of the traffic coalition government. Exactly the opposite.
Thank you, Yanis. There is another question, because there was a comparison between parties today where they asked questions, and some of them are not in our European program currently. But one question, we answered two of those, I think. One was about China and the Uyghurs. The other was about Bosnia and Herzegovina. And one question that comes up sometimes is about the EU accession countries, how the position is on that, because most of them have a long-term program to enter EU, and what the position of DiEM25 slash MERA25 is on these accession countries in Europe.
Well, look, I believe in self-determination. If the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina want to enter the EU, then enter the EU. But there is a big but. The people are not capable, like in our countries, not just in Bosnia and Herzegovina, right, or North Macedonia, but here in Greece, in Germany, we know very well that the elites, the political class, have a stranglehold on public opinion. They misinform public opinion, they manipulate public opinion, they coerce public opinion. So it's not clear that what opinion polls reflect is the story, the whole story, and nothing but the story. And so here's my worry, you see. To Europeans who think that the European Union is a peace project, and therefore, if you bring, and I used to think that too, right? Once upon a time, I used to think that too. I used to think, for instance, a long time ago, when I was young and naive, that if Cyprus came into the European Union, then the division of the island between Greeks and Turks would end. Well, Cyprus came into the European Union, that didn't happen. And there's another aspect to this. If you notice, before any country is allowed into the EU, it has first to enter NATO. That happened in Greece in 1980. A right-wing government in the 1970s, in 1974, had taken Greece out of NATO, out of the military wing of NATO. A very right-wing government, because of what happened in Cyprus and the way in which NATO failed to protect Greece from Turkey in 1974. And then the same government was trying to get us into the European Union. And the condition for us getting into the European Union was that we first go into NATO. Look at Northern Macedonia. They were told, it was actually put into their constitution that if they vote in a referendum for the Prespers agreement with Greece to change the name and end this stupid dispute about names with Greece. If they want to enter the European Union, they need to put into their constitution that they want to enter into NATO. Now that, after the war in Ukraine, the European Union has disappeared, it has dissolved itself. It doesn't exist. It's a figment of our imagination. Stoltenberg, whom we didn't know of until last year, suddenly becomes the leader of Europe. In other words, the General Secretary of NATO has taken over the lunatic asylum, which is Brussels, and he gives orders to our elected governments as to what to do and what to say. So essentially, with the conversion of the European Union into a war union, and under the aegis of NATO and Washington, of course, NATO doesn't exist, it's Washington. Then the question for my friends and comrades in Bosnia-Herzegovina is this what you need? You tell me. DiEM25, we are, as I said, we believe in self-determination. But don't tell me that you're entering the European Union because it's a peace project. It's no longer a peace project. And, you have to consider how you already are in NATO. How good was that for you? So anyway, it's important to be democratic and participatory and respectful of self-determination. I don't know what the answer is. I've heard conflicting views from comrades in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Some want Bosnia-Herzegovina to enter the EU, some don't. But what is important is to have a dialogue in Bosnia-Herzegovina, which is not manipulated and dominated by NATO and by a political class, which we know from our own countries does not have the interests of our peoples and of peace in mind or at heart.
Thanks, Yanis. Yeah, I think for many people, it became a practical question. Like, I don't know, for me to have, my family visit for longer than 3 months because it's also EU, for example, or to, be able to live somewhere else. But it has not such a long-term, such a long-term question. And the North Macedonian constitution is an open source file, everyone can write in there. In the process with the EU negotiations. So the price is high. So that's true.
Freedom of movement is very important. People, not having to go through the process of applying for a Schengen visa. I understand that this is crucial. But you're talking to somebody who is a citizen of a member state of the European Union who is not allowed to come to Germany. So you will excuse me if I'm a bit cynical about the great merits of being in the EU.
That's true. Okay. Point taken. I think there is a last question from the chat, which I've lost a bit track of. But I think people are having more like conversation right now. But there was one question is, what do we do as like if we enter the European Parliament, either in Germany or in Greece or in Italy? We will be like a very, very small minority. So what do we want to do? What is our chance of how can the work for us look like in the European Parliament if people elect us in?
That's an easy one to answer because let me remind you. Do you remember Nigel Farage? He succeeded as a one-person movement to bring Britain out of the EU. He's completely on the other side of the spectrum politically than we are. He's a nasty piece of work. But your question is answered with these two words, Nigel Farage, because what did Nigel Farage do? Did he go to committees in the European Union Parliament? Did he sit in these long discussions about the minutiae of, the common agricultural policy? No. What he did was he used the opportunity that the European Parliament gave him to speak to Europeans on television through the European Parliament and to start his campaign, which was extremely successful from his perspective. He actually got Britain out of the EU. That proves one thing, that if we stop looking low and we look high, we aim high, even one of us, two of us, three of us, four of us, yeah, we can make a huge difference utilizing the platform that the European Parliament gives us, as long as we don't believe the lie that our job there is to be good parliamentarians and to legislate, especially in a parliament which doesn't legislate, which simply does what it's told. We are going to use it as a forum, as an extension of the street. In the same way that our comrades are now in the street in Berlin, we are going to take their voices and make them loud and clear on the floor of the European Union Parliament.
Yeah, thank you, Yanis. I think that's a perfect closing statement. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for asking questions. But most important, please go vote tomorrow.
Yeah, vote.
Tomorrow it counts. Vote in Germany, vote in Greece, vote in Italy for MERA25.
Don't get so enthusiastic that everything is going so well that you forget to vote.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah. You have to really, really go and make your votes tomorrow, people. It has been quite a journey. Thank you to everyone tonight who joined us from Cologne, from Bonn, from Dresden. Thank you, Yanis, for joining us, for giving us some time one day before election day. This moment, I want to also thank everyone in MERA25 Germany for the past weeks and months. Our candidates, Karin, Johannes, the board, our comms people, the people on the ground. It has been an amazing journey from gathering 4,000 signatures and putting in the hard work to everything else we have been through the past weeks. It has been amazing. And no matter what the result is tomorrow, our journey will keep going. And, we indeed are stronger than ever before because our membership increased. People are aware of us. So still go vote, people, even though I say that the result doesn't matter for the future, but it matters because we need the seat and we need, the platform, as Yanis said. So thanks, everyone. We'll see each other tomorrow if you want. At 5:30, we'll be here on the channel and, look at the results or await the results. So please, Yanis, last word, and then bye-bye.
Won't it be fantastic if Karin, or maybe two people, but at least Karin, represents Palestine through Germany in the European Parliament? Imagine that. A Palestinian voice with a German accent in Brussels and Strasbourg.
And that would be, I think, indeed amazing. And even better if also somebody from Italy and you would be also there. I think you would make them very, very nervous, Yanis.
Can't wait for this torture to end tomorrow night.
It would be kind of a bit of back to the beginning for you, wouldn't it? Because through 2015, the journey kind of started with the European Union and the bureaucrats, and now before 2025 to go to Brussels, it will be kind of full circle.
It will be exactly that. I have to tell you on a personal basis, no, don't tell anyone that I'm not looking forward to going to Brussels. But it's a chore. It's a bit like taking the rubbish out at night. Somebody has to do it.
I think that's a good ending word. Thanks, everyone. Somebody has to do it. It's ideally Yanis and Karin and Federico from Italy. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
And Claire from